Hello and welcome to Drafting the Dregs. This is your place to go for all things EPL draft fantasy. We've got the regulars with us today. We've got Mick, we've got Gilby, and we've got Dave. Gentlemen, how are we doing? How are we after game week 4, guys?
Better not ask Dave. He's probably got his pants off.
Oh no,
You can
that
ask me, I'll tell you.
that could be good or bad. My goodness, that doesn't give us a whole lot there, Gilby. How about you, Mick? How are you?
I'm going to go slightly more positive than previous weeks.
That's not hard.
No, but hey, it's positivity.
that's
been-
that's very good to hear.
It's been brilliant, Isaac, and I think you're probably in the same boat yourself.
Yeah, I'm quite content, let's say, with what happened last game week. So, we'll definitely get into that. But I think, in the essence of time, let's move on. Let's talk about moments of the week. Now, this is where I just throw a few things at you that I found interesting this week. We've already discussed it a little bit off air, but my first moment of the week, because I have two, my first moment of the week is we finally found a weakness for Manchester City, and that is the set piece. Only trouble being you need to score at least 4 of them to actually get anything out of a game. So set pieces is where Crystal Palace found some joy against Manchester City this week. I don't know if anyone really thinks that's a true weakness of theirs, but something to talk about. I think the delivery into the box from Eze was excellent. Mick, did you get any points from one of his deliveries into the box?
I believe I did. I think I got an assist for him. Yeah,
Excellent.
An assist.
That's good. And I mean, he deserved that because his delivery was excellent. So, I think if you can get it in and around the area and you've got defenders and attackers who are willing to, really hustle for the ball, City can look a little bit in trouble. Only problem being that, yeah, like I said, you got to score at least 4 of them to get something. So that second half performance was pretty impressive. I think Crystal Palace did really, really well. But Haaland just sort of went off. We'll obviously talk about that a little bit later. Boys, is there any stopping Manchester City when they're in that mood? Like they're happy to chase a game. They're happy to go in front and keep scoring. Like, how are teams going to be able to deal with them this season?
Well, the only thing I saw with Palace there, you did score your 2 goals from set pieces, but also note that your only 2 shots for the entire match, both on target, and you had 25% of the ball. And yeah, I mean, if things had gone bit better, maybe had a bit more luck, you may well have walked away against City with a point, which is going to be pretty rare this season. I think it is going to be very, very difficult to stop. I had a look at a few stats there. Our old friend Haaland, the review from Manchester Evening News said, rubbish for an hour, then scored a hat-trick. So, I mean, when you've got a player who can have 16 touches, which is less than your second half sub, Chris Richards, and have that sort of effect on the match. De Bruyne had, I would say, probably one of the worst games I've seen him have for a while, gave away the ball a lot. Bernardo Silva was excellent. Gundogan came off the bench, thankfully for me. So, I mean, it's a very deep squad, quality. Yeah, they're very hard to stop. I think each one of us picked City to win the title. I think most people have picked them to win the title. So, yeah, I mean, nothing's changed from my perspective.
They're going to be very hard to stop. I think, inevitably they're going to have an off game. It's just a matter of when it happens and what does their off game look like. Their off game looks like still getting plenty of chances, but just one of those games where they're hitting the post or going the wrong side of the post. And in those games, yeah, it's probably going to be a set piece that undoes them because, whilst they've got such an incredible attacking threat, their defense is brilliant, but it's slightly less brilliant than their attack. So break them down in a set piece if possible and pray for the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've already had, a game and a half, let's say, where they haven't been at their best, especially defensively. So in terms of Newcastle, 3-3, and then against Palace, where they at halftime were 2-0 down. I mean, it goes to show, though, just how driven they are to get back into the game. But if that's them playing poorly for a game and a half, like how is the team beating them? I don't see it, Dave.
Unless they get
you're gonna have to
in trouble
absolute
with the
stinker.
midweek fixtures.
Yeah.
Unless they
Sure.
run into squad trouble.
Champions League. I think there's got to be two ways you look at it. I don't think they're going to have any issue in terms of points total end of season, but I do think it'll be a case of while they don't have stupid fixture congestion, they will rack up enough points to give themselves a buffer. I just had a quick look at their draw for the Champions League, their table. They've got Dortmund. You'd say relatively should be strong. I think they've played 3 so far in Bundesliga. They've won 2, drawn 1, so solid start. And then Sevilla, who's actually had a really poor start to their season. They've drawn 1, lost 2, and then Copenhagen, where Matty Ryan is, who you would assume will be lucky to get a point, let alone a win in that league. So if they get if they win their first 3 games of that, I dare say even fixture rotation won't be a problem. It'll be how they come back after the World Cup break.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. I think it's a case of, well, we're saying all of this and they're not even on top of the league though. Like that's the crazy thing, right? Like they're playing amazing and actually not on top of the league. Like Arsenal haven't lost a game yet. Tottenham I think are level pegging with them. So
I think as Dave said, they've attacked amazingly, like they've been great, but just have not defended well. I'm not sure what's going on with Ruben Dias so far, but he has not looked at the races so far.
I'm sure he's waiting for Laporte to come back.
I would imagine so, but yeah, I mean, again, like starting with Ake, Stones has had the start last time. He looks like a good ball player, but switched off for defensively. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. They've shown that with a bit of luck, they can be got at, as we've kind of said. So, I mean, if those defensive struggles keep going, then sooner or later, the luck's going to run out for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's talk really briefly about my second one. I know this probably doesn't apply to Mick too much. I've got to ask Dave and Gilby. Dave, you've got a brother, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, Gilby?
Younger sister.
Okay, not quite. So this only applies to you, Dave. I'm just going to ask you a quick question. Please feel free to answer. Dave, when was the last time you were blackmailed by your brother?
Oh. I don't know. Probably when we were about.
I was really hoping you had a specific date.
15.
I was really hoping you came out with like 15th of January, 1988. Did this.
I don't know. No, we get along pretty well, and
yeah. So you were still kids, right?
I'm sure.
Around.
I can't think of a perfect example, but I'm sure it happened.
So
I probably deserved it.
Knowing you, yeah, no, probably. I mean, so I think it's clear to say that maybe those types of sibling things you tend to grow out of them a little bit. Doesn't seem to have happened for the Pogbas, however.
This is true.
It's gone a little bit nasty there, where there's a bit of blackmail and extortion. The seems to be up in the millions of dollars worth of threats. Where his little brother's going to tell all. Oh my goodness! Oh no! Maybe he can tell us why he didn't put in a shift for Manchester United for the last 3 years. But that just seems a bit ridiculous, doesn't it, Dave? I think you brought that to my attention, that particular story.
Yeah, he didn't. The little brother didn't think to mention this during the Pogumentary, did he?
It's older brother, Dave.
Older brother.
Older.
Older brother. He's actually got older twin brothers, Florentine and Matthias. And Matthias is the one that's had all the issues recently. And I'm just having a quick look at his Wikipedia page. The team he's played the most games for, Wrexham. So I reckon there could be a Ryan Reynolds documentary coming out about this.
Get Deadpool on his ass.
Uh-oh. Well, there you go. Well, if you want to read up about the sibling issues with the Pogbas, feel free, go ahead. But I just wanted to gauge if anyone else had been in a similar situation recently. So good to know that's not you, Dave. Good to know.
Not me. Not me.
You. Not you. Okay.
As far as I'm aware, my brother isn't a part of any mass crime gang. But look, you never really do know these things, do you?
You don't. Do you have $13 million he can get from you?
Not laying around, no.
Okay, right. Okay, so not quite
Yeah.
the same, but that's okay. That's okay. Very good. Well, I just thought I'd bring that up. Yeah, feel free to read into it if you wish. But it is time to talk about waivers. So, Gilby, we've had game week 4. Obviously, for those playing at home, maybe on the live stream, if anyone at all, we've got game week 5 coming up in midweek. So, we've actually already done some waivers for that. But we're just going to look at last game week's waivers leading up to that game week first. So, Gilby, you're obviously grading these. Obviously, you
Yep, I am.
just can't help yourself.
As a fellow teacher, we're into reporting season now. I mean, I know how much I love marking. I hope you do too.
Yeah.
It's just the highlight of my week, so I can't get enough. So here we go. I actually gave some pretty good grades this week. I was pretty impressed by most people's transfer business. I thought there was some good upgrades most people made. So Justin was first. He dropped his mate at Chelsea, Jorginho, the penalty genius, for Rashford. Lots of people were pretty keen for Rashford this week. I think we talked about in the podcast. I gave that an A. The only issue now is that it looks like Manchester United are about to spend $100 million on Anthony from Ajax, who may well play right wing, which means that Rashford is either the striker instead of Ronaldo, or playing on the left, competing with maybe Sancho. So,
but
that's
on
a
the
tough
bright
one.
side for Craney, he'll probably be able to get Anthony as well if he wants him. So
Yep. I mean,
no offense, Craney.
Yeah, and let's face it, one of those is probably going to be offered to me for one of my players, so which I'll probably go for. So that's probably an A for that move too. Mick is next. He dropped Edouard for Jimenez. So I was going to go to Isaac first here. Is Edouard going to be the starting striker for Palace, say medium term, the next 4 or 5 weeks?
It seems like it.
Okay.
I honestly thought that
You were saying Mateta, weren't you?
Mateta was going to be, based on a bit of preseason and what happened at the end of last season. But at the moment, it looks like he is the man.
Okay. So Mick, Jimenez, if it's the Jimenez of a couple of seasons ago before he got his skull fractured, he's an elite striker. If it isn't, then he is probably even with Edouard, maybe a little slight upgrade. What were you thinking there with that move?
Well, I guess there's 2 things to it. First one is Wolves don't have an out-and-out striker other than him. So I figured he is less rotation risk to Edouard. When I've got Mitrovic there and Wilson at the time was my other one, I wanted guarantee. So that's kind of what it was. It's not necessarily about picking the player who's going to outright score more. It's about having the solidity of getting those 2 points. The second thing I'll add in is you've gone through waivers. Have you gone through trades at all? Because Edouard wasn't my player before or for that last round.
I haven't even seen trades, to be honest.
I wasn't sure if anyone had actually seen that or not.
What's that?
No.
Sorry.
Edouard, who I dropped for Jimenez, wasn't my player. Because my 3 forwards last week were Wilson, Mitrovic, and Awaniyi.
Okay, yeah, I can't see it anymore on the website.
Right. I can tell you what it is. Now,
last round, yeah.
I figured it'd come up. Because there's actually been 2 trades in our league, and they actually have to happen before waivers. So it might be worth going through that now. But the other trade, which the 2 managers involved aren't actually here, was midfielder from Jeff, Joe Ellington for Newcastle, for Jordan Henderson from Craney. So that's a Liverpool player going to Liverpool fan, Jeff. I would say that's generally your 4th and 5th mid swap. Not probably too much in it. Relatively fair trade. You're probably slightly ahead with Joe Ellington just because he's more attacking. But if Henderson plays in a team that wins 9-0 all the time, well, you're back him to get decent returns, particularly with the injuries they seem to have. Anyway, into my trade. Now, it started with, again, like I spoke about last week, trying to upgrade a midfielder or other position in return for giving up one of my strikers. So it actually started with a offer to Ben, offering him Wilson because he was struggling with a forward for Edouard or whoever his third forward was, in return to upgrading, I believe it was a midfielder of some kind, but I can't remember exactly. Anyway, the caveat to it was I said there is now a Dorito of death, a yellow one on Wilson's name, and I said, in all honesty, I don't know what the go is. I haven't looked into it. If it's something serious, it's probably a no starter. Anyway, he looked into it. We've since found out it's a 3 to 4 week hamstring injury, made it pretty tough. But before we'd found that out, I said, if you are interested in this swap or in a swap for a trade, I would consider doing a trade for your goalkeeper. Now, he had Allison. I had De Gea. Now, this is after Man U had just beaten Liverpool, so there's probably a little bit more to it. So we ended up with a trade, and I said, look, if you're interested in the forward, Awani has been starting for Forest, but I said they do have something like 18 or 19 new signings now. He is one of them. Who knows who's going to start? They can't even put them all on the bench. Their team's that big. So in the end, the trade was I gave up De Gea and Awani for Edouard and Allison. So it was actually I upgraded a goalkeeper. I straight after it happened, I messaged Ben straight away and said, just so you know, I almost feel bad. I think you are trading across in forwards and down in goalkeepers. So I said, consider it. I'm like, you don't have to go through with it. He said he wanted to take the risk. So that's where it is. So that's why I had Edouard. No intention to actually play him. Straight away I was going to ship him out to try and get someone else. I knew I could get Jimenez because I was pretty confident Rashford was going first. So anyway, that's the story of that trade.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on all the counts there. And just so anyone knows as well, if ever Mick offers you a trade, it means he's about to drop that player. So he has a lot of history for that one.
I had no intention of dropping Awani. That's what I said last week. I said I had 3 players I didn't want to drop. I want to trade for someone I can drop.
Yeah, I always know that whenever you've offered me a player, it's always been that player that you want to drop the next week, generally. So that's something that we can go back over another time. So I gave you a B for that grade for Jimenez. I do like Jimenez. If he gets something approaching to his form of the past, like you said, the only starting striker there, I think it's an upgrade for you. Ben dropped Harry Maguire for Pascal Struijk from Leeds. I strongly considered Pascal Struijk. Looks like Leeds have started pretty well. Didn't have the best round, but we'll get to that a bit later. This is an A for me. It doesn't look like Maguire is getting back in our team anytime soon, given how good Varane and Martinez have actually looked as a pair. Nate was next. He dropped Azpilicueta for Varane. Azpilicueta may or may not play for Chelsea. Varane does look like he has nailed down the centre-back position when he's not injured. So provided Varane stays fit, it's an A. If he isn't, then, that's another grade we can talk about a bit later. Isaac, you're next. You dropped Newcastle United's prime mover, but a bit defensive, holding midfield for Guimaraes for Aronson. We've mentioned Aronson already a couple of times, saying how good he's looked. Was that just a case of looking for a more attacking output from your midfield there, Isaac?
Pretty much. Yeah, he scored a goal the week before. Looks energetic. And Guimaraes then didn't play anyway. So happy overall.
Yeah, no, I gave you an A for that one. I really like Aronson. I was strongly tempted to go for him myself, but I really like my midfield all up. Whether I'm wrong or not, of course, we'll find out. Jeff was next. He tried for Rashford, which I know would be painful for him as a Liverpool man, but settled for dropping Henderson that he'd immediately got in that trade for Casemiro. This one I debated whether it was a C or a D, because to me, I wasn't sure about this one, because Henderson, when he plays, is definitely box to box, can pop up for goals, maybe an assist every now and then. Casemiro, I see at best maybe 1 or 2 goals, because I think he is definitely going to play the anchorman role, because I think that Ten Hag wants to play him as the one holder with Eriksen and Fernandes in the midfield. So to allow that to happen, Casemiro has to hold and can't really attack. So it's a tight one. I don't think I can avoid giving Jeff a D for that one. But given he proceeded to offer me Casemiro, I'm thinking that he maybe is hoping that I'll offer him one of my midfielders for Casemiro and make it look brilliant. So we'll see how that goes. Dan was next. He tried for Jimenez, but settled for dropping Solanke for Emmanuel Dennis, your old mate from Watford, Dave. As we already mentioned, Forest have about 10 strikers now. So if Dennis wins that spot, it looks great. If he doesn't, then he's traded a starting striker for a bench warmer. So it's up in the air. Jury's out at the moment. What do you reckon, Dave? Is Dennis going to win that spot?
No idea. But what I will say is there were fairly reliable reports coming out of the media in Watford that virtually the entire squad were extremely pleased to see the back of Dennis. Apparently, really unsettling figure in the dressing room. Didn't really get along with anyone, and no one was sad to see him go, which, given how relatively successful he's been, was, quite interesting to read. So, maybe it'll just come down to actually how well he settles in that squad as to how successful he is.
Yeah, that's a good pick up there, Dave. So then I was last. I dropped Doherty for Dallo. I was really excited to still get Dallo. I thought somebody else would jump in ahead of me. So I'm pretty confident that's an upgrade there. Given that Manchester look like that they are either trying to sell or loan out Wan-Bissaka. They think they've basically marked his cards as far as Ten Hag is concerned. So, I mean, really happy to get a definite starting right back for a player that doesn't look like he's going to be starting anytime soon for Spurs. Then next round, we had lots more moves. Justin was next. Drop Bamford for Johnson. This one's a C for me. I debated maybe a D because Bamford is a very good striker when he isn't injured. Isn't injured being the operative word there. And Johnson may or may not have the starting job at Forest, as we talked about. Has started last few games, has looked pretty good. So I gave Justin the benefit of the doubt and went to C. You could maybe make an argument for either a B or a D there, depending on your opinion there.
Johnson's played every minute.
He has.
I feel like you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I did give him a C. I may be looking towards a B minus.
I think the issue there is Crane's probably waited 2 weeks too long. He needed to do it when Bamford was definitely out, not right before his comeback.
Yeah. So that's always going to be a tough one there because I think when Bamford's fit and given Leeds have started well, he is a much better striker than Johnson. So it's a tough one. We've talked about injured players. I'm not going to talk about injured players and invite ridicule and abuse. So we'll go from there. Mick was next. You tried for Rashford and Dallo, hoping that they may still be available. Not quite. But then you settled for dropping Rodak for Leno. Just swapping for the starting goalkeeper at Fulham there, Mick?
Yeah, I knew that one was no rush. It was my last in order. I basically only wanted one of those players, so Jimenez or Rashford, and Dallo was there. I just prioritized them based on what I thought. I figured Rashford would go first. The look at it, I would have happily taken all three. I just didn't want to risk. There was no one else that really took my fancy, so I kept hold of everyone else, basically.
Yep. And then Nate tried for Casemiro, Dallo, and Stroik, but missed all three. Jeff was next, tried for Jimenez, settled for dropping Armstrong for Adams. Gave it a B because Adam looks slightly more likely to start, but Southampton haven't looked great, particularly going forwards. So I think Jeff's going to need a few more gambles there. We'll talk about that a bit later. And Justin was last with another move, dropping Stones for Webster. Now, Brighton have started really well. I looked at Webster as a potential candidate for my team, but dropping Stones at the moment with Laporte out injured and with Ake out injured and with City about to host Forest, that's a tough call for me. I don't think Stones is their long-term starting centre-back, so I get the fact Justin needs to chase points. I gave him the benefit of the doubt here and went a C because I do like Brighton's start. I think they're going to keep going. They've got a really good run of fixtures coming up, so I gave him benefit of the doubt there. Free agents, Justin dropped Sinistera for Norgard, a C for me. Sinistera will be good when he's fit, but again, injured. Mick was next, dropped Wilson for Wood. Obviously, that will change again with your move for the next round, but I gave that an upgrade because obviously Wilson being injured, that was a B.
That was to have a 2 point on the bench if I needed it.
Yeah, I figured. So with Wilson out injured, I figured we can't be carrying that. That's fine. And then Dan dropped Dennis immediately for Morpie, who is now Everton's starting striker. I Again, I gave this an upgrade because you don't know if Dennis is going to start. So it was a B for me, but I'm not sure how Morpie is going to go at Everton. I think when DCL is fit, whenever that happens to be, 2026 maybe, he will probably play and Morpie won't. If it's a short-term move, then great, sure. So that was the end of round 4 transactions for us.
Very nice. Yeah, lots of moves. And I think we're going to see very soon if any of those paid off in game week 4. So it's probably time to look at the league ladder, gentlemen. I'm going to throw this up on the screen. Let's have a bit of a look. So we do have Craney still in 9th place, 35 points this game week, followed by Ben in 8th. 42 points this game week. Mick, you were able to make a bit of a charge up the leaderboard into 7th place, 68 points. You must be pretty stoked about that result.
I only wanted to break 30, remember, and I did that.
Well, you definitely did that. Well done. I'm just making my screen a touch bigger. There we go. We've also got then Nathan in 6th place, 55 points in the game week. Dan, who was sitting pretty, I think he was up in 2nd place, wasn't he? Or 2nd or 3rd place. Big drop with only 39 points this game week into 5th. Jeff staying steady on 4th with 53 points. Gilby, 38 points, dropping down from 1st place, I believe. So obviously not too happy with that at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, well, as I said, like, I didn't think that kind of round would happen too often. And I mean, this round, the story was, did you have a Liverpool attacker or did you not? Unfortunately for Jeff, he picked the wrong Liverpool attacker to have somehow. I saw his numbers and I couldn't quite believe it. Salah missed 2 point-blank shots. He had 14 touches in the penalty box, 4 shots in the box, 2 big chances, 1.23 XG, and 3 points. In amongst a 9-0 win for Salah to score 3 points. That is not going to happen very often. No. And unfortunately, Jeff did not have the rub of the green this week, and others did. When
I saw the score, I thought, Jeff's at the top. Here we go. Let's see how this rolls. But wasn't to be. So we'll have to keep abreast of that one. That brings us into 2nd place. That's myself. 70 points this game week, which I'm pretty happy with, obviously. I think that's the leading points for this game week. And then Dave climbed to the top, 64 points. Dave, how does it feel? Is it a bit too early to celebrate just yet?
Just taking it one game at a time, just right. Not looking ahead. Just want to put in an effort on the training park and cliche.
Very, very good. Well, how about we go through and have a bit of a look? We'll pick out some highlights and maybe a few lowlights as well. We'll go with Craney at the bottom. Dave, did you want to run us through how Craney went this game week, please?
I can. Give me 5 seconds to bring it up on my screen.
Even better.
Craney. All right. Let's have a look. 35 points. Mendy with 3. Big haul from Van Dijk, 12 points, obviously scored a goal and kept clean sheet in that 9-0 rout. Webster with 5, so a clean sheet there. Nothing much other than 2s and 3s in the midfield. Strikers both with a combined 2 points, so both played 90, both got a yellow card. And then just Shah and me also with 1 and 2 respectively. So, yeah, not much going on except for the 2 defenders there, Van Dijk and Webster with 12 and 5 respectively, and a grand total of 4 points on his bench. So it's not like he could have really done anything differently there either.
Yeah, I suppose good news for Craney. Two pieces of good news. He's cracked the century, over 100 points overall. So he's raised the bat. And he'll keep getting that first round pick. And obviously, as transfers come to an end, the transfer market comes to an end, hopefully he's going to have an opportunity to pick up some pretty good players. So that's probably the silver lining there for Craney. Mick, did you want to go through and talk about Ben's game? So 42 points overall. What's the highlights and the lowlights for Ben?
There's really 2, you could argue 3 highlights for Ben's team. One is first draft pick, maybe second if Cancelo was first. Sterling with 15, 2 points, 3 bonus, 15 points. De Gea got him 8. which is great, but he did actually have Henderson on the bench for 9, and I was talking to Ben, and there was a lot of conjecture as to which one he'd pick. I still argue to Ben that he made the right choice. It's not every day Harry Kane would miss a penalty. If Kane scores that penalty, there's a solid chance Henderson gets 1. So it's at least only 2. So it'd be a tough call. Unfortunate that he saved it, because it would have been an extra goal conceded. It would have been lost the 5 points for penalty save, and he also would have lost the bonus 2 that he got for that game.
Can I just jump in there? Gilby and Mick, you're the stats guys here, so you may have seen it or heard it or got it on hand. But what was it? Something like Henderson saved 4 of his last 5 penalties or something?
Oh, I think I saw that too.
Ridiculous numbers. So when you say, oh, bad luck, well, he's like an elite penalty saver.
He went early. He went super early for that Kane penalty too. Like he obviously knew where it all had he obviously had a good idea where it was going and went super early, and it paid off.
Yeah.
Well, he's the first person in 4 years to stop a Harry Kane penalty, which is pretty impressive. I mean, the only other 3 keepers to save a Kane penalty: Adrian, Fraser Forster, and Loris Karius. So not exactly an elite club. But I can't see anything there regarding how many in a row he's made, but wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think I saw that on one of the wrap-up highlight shows or something. Someone mentioned it.
So I think, I mean, he lost a point there, Ben, but I still think he made the right call. It could very easily have been a 1 point. I think you'd take the 8 points there. The only other player that really got any points of note is Davies, who got a clean sheet for Spurs, got him 6 points. Ericsson did get the clean sheet, so an extra bonus. Apart from that, just 1s and 2s across the board. I think probably the biggest one at the moment, and I mean, originally it probably looked like a good trade, but Cancelo doesn't look like the same player he was last year. Going into the draft, I think we all would have agreed he's a top 15 pick, pretty close to a top round pick. I think I had him in the top 9. But probably at the moment looks probably the worst, arguably the worst of the top round picks. So for Ben's sake, hopefully he can come good. The other probably most important thing for Ben was he left Gallagher on the bench for -2. So that's probably another win for Ben there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And hopefully Song Heung-min starts to look like the Golden Boot player winner of last season, and not the guy that basically had a tantrum when he got subbed at the 67th minute for Richarlison. So, yeah, I mean, I really like Son in real life. I think he generally, from everything from the outside, appears to be a genuinely good human being and a very good player. So I hope it turns around for him and Ben soon.
Conte also did come out and say something regarding how good he thinks Ricky is. I still don't. You got to say Kulusevski drops out before Son does. Obviously, when fixtures pick up a little bit, sure, it's different. But Son has to start with Kane. Those two have to be there. Ricky's got to be the one that swaps with Kulu, unless it's a short-term stint off the bench.
I think the only issue there, Gilby, I have with what you said is that I don't think Ben really gives a crap, because he's a Craney's player anyway. So, there's that.
I think the argument might be that was Son a first-round pick? Yeah, I'm going to back Gilby up and say that's what he was arguing there.
Sorry, I apologize. I thought he was talking in regards to him being Ben's player, so my apologies. Hence my dig.
No, you're right. I had Justin's team on the screen. Never mind. But anyway,
just regarding Conte. Yeah, I saw there was some quote where he basically said that Richarlison will be starting games imminently. So, yeah, whether it's Son or Kulu and whether that has any impact on Ben's team remain to be seen.
But honestly, I was disappointed you didn't mention the moment of the week, your mate Richarlison getting hacked for playing tricks in the match. I mean, as proud Park footballers ourselves, that would have been a very tempting hack for all of us. So, yeah, I mean,
he was playing down the defensive right side. So, Dave, you would have definitely just chopped him.
Look, I always had a few rules. If they get past you once, you just quietly say, "Yep, well done." You just cop it on the chin. If they get past you twice, you tell them that's the last time that'll happen. And if they attempt to get past you a third time, you make sure that the second time was the last time it happened. But, with Ricky, I mean, it's pretty disrespectful to juggle the ball in the middle of a Premier League game. And, hey, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. He got smashed for it. And I don't think there's many people with much sympathy for him.
No, I think you're right there. Very nice. Well, we will move on to Mick. So you've made a climb. Now, Mick, I'll quickly go through your team, and we might then jump in with a few questions if you're happy with that. We have a pretty good all-round effort with 68 points in total. So Allison with 6, bringing a good points haul to your back line. We've got Alexander Arnold with 17, which was inevitable with a 9-0 scoreline. Connor Cody with 8 points, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name. Can you pronounce that name for me, Mick or Gilby? Estupinan. There you go.
You can just say you stupid nan if you want.
Okay, you stupid nan. Very good.
Yeah.
6 points. Pretty good solid back line there. So, and then we go to the midfield. Again, some good solid performers. Saka with 5, Barnes with 7, Eze with 5. And then your forwards, Mitrovic with 7. He's been going along really nicely. Obviously, brought about an error in the Leeds defence. Jimenez chipped in with 2, Neto with 2. I think, has Neto been a bit of a disappointment for you, Mick, or was he sort of your last pick and you're not too fussed at this point with him?
I think he was my 4th mid. So I think he was around round 9 or 10. My play this year was leave you 2 goalkeepers and 1 of each position to the end. And I think I had him and Bailey basically back-to-back at round 10 and 11. But yeah, I would agree. He has been a bit of a disappointment. I would argue he's probably the midfielder on the chopping block at the moment, particularly when they've got Guedes they've signed, they've got Pedense, they've got Jimenez coming back. He's unlucky at the moment. It hasn't really got me much, but the hard thing is what alternates are there in the free agency, and at the moment there's not too much. So while he's playing and their fixtures are okay, he's probably going to hang around. So
yep. And my last question would be about your defense. A bit skinny in defense at the moment because of some injuries. I haven't studied the next waiver. If you've rectified that, maybe we'll save that for them. But is that an area I haven't rectified? So what are your thoughts there?
Yes, that's going to happen sometime tonight if it happens. I'm really stuck at the moment because I think Jensen is in the top equivalent of 45 defenders. I think if I drop him, someone will pick him up, someone that does have a weaker defense. So I would like to hold him. The problem is I have 2 defenders who are in the same issue. In a perfect world, I would love if Laporte was closer to returning because then I could drop Ake. The fact that Laporte's not meant to be back until mid-October, I think it was. Pep has always played a left foot, right foot centre back pairing. Ake is the only other centre back that's left footed in their squad outside of Laporte. So he's had to play Stones there with Diaz, both right footers, I believe. But Ake started the season really well. So I think as soon as he's fit, he's coming back. Pep was quoted as saying that he's back running again. I think he said that before the last game. So I don't think he's far away. So I don't think I want to drop him because I think when he is fit, they will slot him straight back in. The benefit to a centre-back type role is it's pretty rare that if they are on the bench that they'll get put on the field. My issue is having the double defense that are out. If one of my other, say, Estupinan or Cody doesn't play, I only have 2 playing defenders and I won't get that third player in. So I'm not sure yet if I will be making a trade. I haven't. I didn't see any immediately that I said I need to jump in and get that before other people. But don't rule it out. It depends if I can get any more information about Jensen and how long he's meant to be out. Because there wasn't anything going into the round. He just didn't play. They've said it's a foot injury. He trained and it was a bit worse than they expected and he couldn't play. So they're both really close. I just need to weigh up. Do I risk the copping of points for one round if something doesn't happen? Or do I drop them now?
I think given your position, Mick, is at least you're getting one of the early picks at the waivers. Maybe not the first one, but if you drop him, he gets locked, and then you get a pretty quick chance to grab him back next week if you so choose.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess it did work when I was last. It happened with Barnes. I dropped Barnes, got Dewsbury Hall, got the 2 points, got Barnes back the next week when he returned. My issue is I think at least I rate those two guys higher than probably the majority of the two guys below me in their defense. I know we just went through it. I can't even remember who it was, but if I compare them to say like what I would consider the two worst defenders, say in Ben's team, Walker Peters and Struick, I would be taking Jansen before those two every day of the week. And if I look at Craney's team, Ben Mee, pretty similar. I would argue that Jansen's more likely to play and more of a goal threat, probably slightly more of a goal threat. Webster, maybe not, but Castagne, probably the way Leicester is. So I think I'm less likely to get them. Also because of the quality of the rest of the league, free agency and the other positions. There are no forwards, really. You have to take a risk for that other forward, like an Edouard. He may just randomly get dropped for Matero. They may play Zaha up top. They might play Jordan Ayew up top. You just don't really know. Midfielders is actually not that much until you start going defensive. That's the majority of what's left. Defenders, you can always rotate based on good fixtures. So, and the other thing is Brentford have really good fixtures after next week. That's why it makes me lean towards Ake. I just kind of wish Laporte was going to be back sooner, and I hadn't read that about him. Because I think long-term I'm going to get more points probably by holding on to these two and not playing, especially if I can still fit a whole team playing this week.
Yep. No, fair enough. Well, let's move on now and we'll look at Nathan. He's our next one. Gilby, would you do the honour now? Nathan got 55 points. Generally, if you're getting over 50 points in a game week, that's pretty good. That's where you need to be consistently. And he did a really good job of that at the back end of last season, getting over 50 points consistently. So, Gilby, run us through Nathan's team.
Yeah, no, classic Nate style. Got great points from players that you did not expect to score great points from. So, yeah, I mean, really solid week. Dyer, Veltman, Varane, shutouts for everybody there, 6 points each. Fornals 11, Gross 11. You'd argue elite players from his team, really only appearance points apart from Vardy, who did chip in with the 5. So, I mean, really, really solid week. Classic Nate style, getting points from players that you didn't expect.
And of course, with Nathan, if we scroll down, Matip, Laporte, his two elite defenders are currently injured. So he's obviously, at this point in time, willing to keep a hold of them. So we'll have to wait and see if that continues.
Sounds very similar to my predicament. He's in a very, very similar one. Laporte's obviously had a little bit longer term than my two, but Matip apparently should be back for this weekend. I think he'll probably start straight away. His issue is I think Veltman's also carrying a knock, so he's going to have to make a trade if he hasn't already.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll have to look into that coming up. So let's continue on with Dan's team. I'll quickly run through Dan's team. So 39 points for Dan this particular game week. Would have been a little bit disappointing considering where he was sitting in the table. Not really too much to write home about other than Luis Diaz, who had a cracker of a game for 14 points. That's where the majority of his points came from. Cucurella with 5 points. Saliba with 7 points. Saliba's been excellent, getting really good points. Cucurella's looked really good for Chelsea as well. Would have been a bit upset with Jesus and maybe Harrison not getting the points that they've been accustomed to over the last couple of weeks. And his Man City defense didn't work out this week either with Diaz and Walker, only getting 1 point each. So that would have been a bit disappointing. He's had Richarlison on the bench for 4. Mapai, who he's now at Everton, sitting there waiting maybe to be played this coming week. We'll have to wait and see. So 39 points for Dan. We'll have to wait and see if he does anything drastic, but he's got some decent players there. They just didn't come to the fore this particular game week.
Just on 2 players there. So, we've all been impressed by Saliba, and I was pretty positive when Dan picked him up. And, I thought he was going to be a good player, but personally I stayed away from him being, a centre-back. You prefer to go for your wing backs, but he's been great. The other one I just want to highlight is De Silva. Now, in the normal budget version of the FPL, people this season appear to be incredibly reactive, like more so than I remember in past seasons. And he had a few great early weeks. People rushed him in, and I just thought he was ridiculously overperforming and that it couldn't continue. I don't know when Dan brought him in, but I mean, the 2 points there doesn't surprise me in the slightest for De Silva.
Yeah. But as Mick said, they've got such great fixtures that he might
Yep.
be willing to hold him for a little bit longer. But you're right. Yeah. Bit of overperformance potentially there. Let's now have a look at Jeff in fourth place. He stayed there with 53 points, 190 points all up, 1 point behind Gilby. So, Gilby, I'm going to hand Jeff's team over to you. Let's run through his team really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it was the Liverpool story for Jeff, as it often is. Unfortunately, I mean, when we saw the 9-0, I thought Jeff is on for a 100-point round here, given his Liverpool assets. Didn't quite work out. But, I mean, Robbo with 9 and obviously Firmino with 22. The cool thing with Firmino actually looked, because I'm one of the people that's had Firmino before. I think a few of us have at different points. Firmino's 22-point haul was over a third of what he managed in the entire season last season. So one of those players that is great in real life, but just does not translate well to fantasy with the role he plays. But, I mean, this week, and a 9-0 win, I think it was 2 goals and an assist, or was it something like that? I can't remember exactly.
2 goals,
2
3
goals, 3
assists.
assists.
3 assists, there you go. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know Jeff would have been very annoyed with Salah, but overall, you take a 50-point round, as we've often said. And yeah, I mean, he was overjoyed to pick up Firmino from the free agents. He thought he wouldn't be able to get him, and he got him. And it looks like he's going to start maybe a little longer with Jota still out, maybe coming back pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, while Nunez can't play because of his headbutt and Jota's injured, he's making hay while the sun shines, Chef.
Absolutely. So, and like you say, like, at least if Sal's not going to perform, Firmino comes in with 22 points. You know, bit of a silver lining there for him. 9 points from Robertson as well, 6 from Royale. You know, solid performance, getting over 50 points for the game week. Can't complain with that. So, Gilby, that leads us to yours. I'm going to get Dave to grill you on your 38 points, if that's okay, Dave. And we'll sort of see where we sit there.
It's never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems, is it, Gilby?
True. Yeah. I mean, like I said that for Mick last season. I mean, his team is better than he thought it was. And he showed that this week. And yeah, I mean, my team is never going to be scoring. I think I got 60 something points last week. So that's never sustainable, particularly when your 2 starting strikers combined for 3. So yeah, I mean, I've got some issues, and whether or not that is still the case after this weekend when the window closes, that's going to be the big question for me.
Well, yeah, let's start right there. So, what did Ronaldo get you? 4 minutes last game week. This time he got you 22 minutes. So, you know, that's headed in the right direction. Assuming
he probably had like one more sprint in the whole game as well.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, not much to write home about in terms of returns. Trossard 6, Gundogan 4. Your big one in defence, Dallo. Also, you know, clean sheet, assist.
Automatic substitution, I might add.
Auto
you got lucky that Dallo came in.
Yep. And Ray with 6, so a few saves and some bonus. But I think my take home, looking at, you know, at Gilby's team here, yeah, there's a little bit of tinkering to be done, but you've got De Bruyne, you've got Gundogan, who's been playing. Madison is likely to play. Tomiyasu, I'm a bit of a fan of, despite the fact that his injuries plagued me last season. And you'd expect Chilwell to get points. So, you know, it's workable, and you were in the lead until this game week. So I think you're there or thereabouts. And it's one of those things where you'll cop, not that it was a bad round by any means, but you'll cop a bad round on the chin if you know that it's the result of the correct decisions, just that haven't paid off. So, yeah, I think you've got a bit of tinkering, but I don't think it's as terrible as it could have been.
Yeah, no, I mean, like as Mick said, I got lucky there. I have made a move that we'll get into very soon, but I mean, De Bruyne did not have his best match, so hope that maintains. I've seen Bernardo Silva started ahead of Gundogan this week, so that could be some trouble there for me. I mean, Pep really does like Bernardo Silva, and I will tell you that this week I am starting Alvarez from the start. So if that pays off, great. If it doesn't, we'll see. But hosting Forest seems like a great opportunity to start Alvarez and hope for a bit of luck there.
Yeah. No, fair call. I think he's probably good for a start in your team. I would imagine Haaland might get a bit of a rest, maybe come on at the end. Have to wait and see whether that changes my team and my thinking. Who knows? Haven't really thought about it yet. So that does lead us into second place. So that was my team with 70 points, the highest points total in the game week, which is awesome. I'm really pleased with that. Mick, do you want to take us through my team, if that's okay, really quickly?
Once I bring it up.
Excellent.
Okay, so obviously we've spoken about Haaland, 17 points. Other big performers, I mean, you had a few across the board. Bernardo, we just mentioned, got 9 with a goal and 2 bonus. Gabriel got a goal and 1 bonus for 9. Fernandez got a goal and a clean sheet for 8 in total. Then you also had Lewis Dunk for a clean sheet and a bonus for Brighton, and Lloris with a clean sheet against Forest with 6. So quite a few. No, other than Haaland, no ridiculous hauls. Just when you can get multiple players between 6 and 10 points, you're going to go pretty well. Other than that, you had Henry, Tony for 2, Bowen got 3. Probably a little bit disappointing so far this season, and Aronson for 1. So nothing really left on the bench. Martial, who'd been an interesting one with a bit of an injury going on at the moment, and Romero with a lack of match fitness, it says here. Only 3 points in total there. So obviously Forest defender, really attacking one, but you got to wait for the right fixtures for him. So overall 70 points, going to be pretty bloody happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was happy if I think before the last set of games, I'm like, oh, if I get up to 50 points, yeah, awesome. So worked out pretty well. So pretty chuffed with that. And so I think it's time, drumroll please, that we talk about Dave's team on top. Congratulations, Dave. Well done. 64 points. I'll roll through your team really, really quickly, and then you just have to talk us through the magic that obviously happened this game week for you. We have Fabianski, 8 points. Who would have thunk it? James, 7 points. Perisic, 6. Creswell, 6. Absolutely stellar backline, which is good to see. Odegaard, 10, keeping that really good form. St. Maximum finally actually was able to score a goal with 9 points, which is good to see. And Kane with 10 points could have been better if he didn't miss the penalty. So, Dave, 64 points, got to be pretty happy with it. Are you... Zinchenko, he's got a Dorito of death at the moment. St. Maximum does as well. I can't imagine those two are leaving your team, however.
Absolutely not. St. Maximin is absolute quality. That's only a new one that's come up. I only noticed it earlier when we started the pod, so I need to look into that one a bit. But Zinchenko's on his way back in. Just a minor injury that he missed out the last game, and I'd expect him to play midweek.
Yep.
Well, Zinchenko also, Tierney started the game for Arsenal, got hooked after 60-something minutes, and as soon as they made that change, Arsenal came back into the game. So I dare say as soon as Zinchenko's fit, he's likely to start.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Perisic looks quality, doesn't he? Like I don't think, did he start the game as well, or did he not? Yeah, he did. I think he did start the game.
Yep.
But just looks like a genuine threat for getting, attacking points, any points. Like he's thereabouts every week.
Anytime he's on the park, he spends most of his time in the final third whipping in crosses from positions under pressure that you don't expect players to be able to whip crosses in from. I've been saying it, for the last few weeks now, that players like Perisic, Botman, Samaka, and to a lesser extent, more recently, Telemans, I've been worried about their minutes. But it seems like Botman's playing all the time now. There's still a lot of conjecture around whether or not Perisic will get rotated with Sessegnon. I think that will happen, but he's playing that well that I just need to start him every week and hope he starts. And if he doesn't, cop that on the chin. Like I said about Gilby's team, you cop the loss of points in a one-off week if you know it's the right move. if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Hey,
Very nice. Two questions for you. Number one, will Lingard still be in your team in 3 weeks' time?
you gonna ask them? Yep. All right. Cool. Thought you were gonna ask me both questions, and I answer.
No, just
them,
one at a
but,
time. Sorry.
Not likely. No.
Okay, good. Number two, what's going on the back of the jersey?
What's going on the back of the jersey? Look, I don't know yet. I mean, if you'd have asked me this in the off season, well, even then, I don't know. I do like Ismail Assar, but I'm not convinced that he'll be around for long enough for me to worry about it. We'll wait and see.
Very good. Very good. Well,
maybe,
good to
maybe
hear.
something witty.
That doesn't sound like you, Dave, at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Well, very good. Look, that is where we're sitting. So, in total, if we look at the league, you've got a 15-point lead over myself. So a bit of a buffer, but as we know that happens at this time of the season, it is very up and down. I went from 5th to 2nd in 1 week. I could easily go from 2nd to 6th this week. Like who knows? So we'll see what happens. It will be a good midweek game week. So speaking of midweek game week, Gilby, did you quickly want to run through what those waivers were looking like? The ones that just happened might sort of give us a bit of an idea where some of the managers are going to, and maybe what some of their issues they feel they had, and how they've fixed those up. So Gilby, run us through that nice and quickly.
All right, Mick was first. He was the lucky man who picked up the new transfer to the league, Isaac. He is a hero on FIFA and Football Manager, so if he's anything like those games, he is an elite striker and will be a great pickup for Mick. And A there. Dan tried for Isaac, but he settled for dropping Potence for Andreas. If Fulham do anything, Andreas will probably be at the centre of it. It's a slight upgrade for me. It's a B. Jeff also tried for Isaac. He settled for dropping Adams for Bamford. I know that Jeff is happy to take risks all season with the striking position and is overjoyed to have Bamford, even though he's injured. So it's an upgrade for me. It's an A. I dropped Tomiyasu for Stones in the hope that City would be able to shut out Forest, which I think is a pretty safe bet as long as Stones actually plays. That would be looking like a good move for me. Isaac, you also tried for Isaac, but you settled for dropping Ramiro for Malacia. I was pretty tempted by this one. I thought it was a tempting one. If he holds a starting position ahead of Shaw, which looks pretty likely, it's a really good move. I gave you a B there. Dave was next. He dropped Lingard for Elise. We've talked in previous podcasts about Elise. I think he's really good. If Forest are going to do anything, though, it'll probably go through Lingard. We may have some time for both you and Isaac to maybe talk about it soon, about what you're thinking with those moves there. Free agents, Nate, so far, is I think Mick may add to the free agents late if he's going to keep his defenders. But Nate has been first, dropping Danny Ings for Edouard. I'm not sure about that move. I don't know which way it's going to go. Ings may or may not start for Villa, who haven't been good. Edouard may or may not start for Palace. I mean, it's a tough one. It's a C for me. It's a sideways move. And Justin was next. He dropped Ben Rama for Rodri. Now, I was pretty forthright on Rodri, saying it was a horrible pickup in the draft, particularly where he was picked up in the draft. But Rodri has had 2 assists so far and is looking pretty solid there for City. So given Justin's team, some solidity may be an improvement. So I'm going to go for a B for Justin there. So, yeah, some interesting moves there. I think Mick would be overjoyed to have Isaac. A few managers there would be pretty happy with what they picked up. And that's where I'll probably have to love you and leave you, boys. Good luck for everything.
No worries
Thanks,
at all.
Gilby.
Thanks, Gilby. Cheers for that. So, Dave, I mentioned Lingard. I hadn't looked at the waivers, but I just noticed that he hasn't really done all that much for Forest. Forest, they're going to struggle. What made you go for Elise in particular?
He's quality. He's coming back from an injury. And I figured if I didn't pick him up while he was still slightly injured, I wouldn't have a chance to pick him up or someone of similar quality once he's back. Much like for those of us that, will know what was going on with our league last year, I was very big on, making moves 2 or 3 weeks in advance because of the way the waivers were falling and I was getting a late pick. I was forced into it. It's much the similar kind of situation here. If I didn't pick him up now, I'm not going to get a chance to ship out Lingard. And yeah, Gilby's right. If Forest do anything, it'll go through Lingard. But that hasn't happened yet, and you can only hang on for so long, right?
The easy solution to this, Dave, is don't do well and get an early pick.
Oh, look, that is a solution, no doubt. Not one I'm entertaining, hopefully.
Have to wait. Well, I think I Elise's quality. I like him. I love him. He's gonna be, when he gets back fit, he will. In my mind, he will start. Like he started maybe got half the minutes sort of that he should have last year in terms of like full game. So he got sort of half of those minutes. I think he'll definitely increase on that this year. And there's rumors Zaha might be going somewhere. He's in the last year of his contract. Rumors he may go to Chelsea, but I mean, Chelsea are linked with everyone at the moment. Whether that happens or not, if it does happen, at least that comes in. He's going to be a genuine starter. I really like him. So good set piece taker as well. Has glides past players just like Eze does. So I think that he just brings a lot to that attack. So good pickup. I'm keen to see how it goes. Mick, Isaac, I went for him as well. He was on my radar very early on when I found that he'd moved. I mean, it just seems right that he's in my team, to be fair, given my name and his. Could we do a potential trade? I don't know, maybe down the line. But are you feeling quietly confident with him in your team now?
I mean, I just wanted to have all three of Newcastle's strikers in the space of a week, which I've achieved.
Well done.
The fact that Callum Wilson's out, they've spent 60 million on this dude. I'm going to back him to start at some point and get into that position. Newcastle
60 million is just loose change for the new owners, though, right?
No, that is true, but it is their record signing. I'm pretty sure their record before that was about 40 or just over 40 mark. So it's a relatively, obviously it's different owners, so it's percentage to what they can spend. It's nothing, but it is a sign of intent because he is a pretty young dude. I'm pretty sure he's only like 22. Kind of, without making comparisons, kind of the Haaland build, like tall, but agile enough, and is skilled enough to create his own as well as just position himself to finish. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But I think while Wilson's out, he's going to be a much more mobile threat rather than Chris Wood. I think Chris Wood was a great one for them for the end of last year to help them from relegation. So he could be from set piece, hold up play, feed out to St. Maximin to try and create something. Wood's more of a bench role, great player to throw when you're all out attack at the end and you've got a set piece because he'll fight for it and bring the ball down for you. But I don't see him starting. When I originally went for him, Chris Wood's minutes were perfectly inverse or complementary. I don't know what the technical terminology is for Wilson. So every time Wilson came off, Wood came on. So I figured that week when Isaac hadn't had his work permit yet, that would be a straight swap. But I dare say now it'll be Isaac going in. So my issue this week is just to decide if I'm not going to make a trade and I have two defenders sitting out, who my one other midfielder attacker sitting out is. At the moment, it's probably going to be Isaac hasn't played a game against Liverpool. I think that's probably a safe-ish one.
Yeah.
The other alternate is potentially Harvey Barnes against Man U, but I reckon if someone's going to pick up points, it's more likely to be Barnes than Isaac. So that's probably where I'm sitting at the moment. But yeah, pretty happy to get that one. I also did look at Malacia, but yes, he got a clean sheet. Points are a little bit inflated. I don't know if his attacking output was that great, though. From the little bit I've seen, I didn't watch the game, so maybe he passed an eye test, but from the numbers I've seen, he didn't necessarily bomb forward. The numbers kind of struck me a bit like Wan-Bissaka. Solid defensively and will help them, which is what they need, but won't necessarily get forward and whip balls into the box. And as far as I'm aware, he's not a set-piece taker.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I can totally get that. I had another question for you. Were you surprised that Craney and Ben didn't dip their toe into the waiver? Yeah, relatively. I guess I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't make any trades. I'm not necessarily surprised they didn't pick up Isaac.
Both of those guys, Craney, I don't know as much about, but I know they're less into the game than we are. They're less invested in the league as we are. So in terms of surface digging statistically, Isaac wouldn't have shown up on any kind of radar in the game. You'd have to be up with the general knowledge of what's happening in the league, general news articles to have seen that he's come into the league, rather than that. So I'm surprised they didn't make any trade considering their teams. But I'm not necessarily surprised that Isaac slipped to me. I was really hopeful because it was a straight swap, pretty easy one in my decision, in my opinion. But yeah, not necessarily surprised they didn't make any, but not that it wasn't that.
Yeah. And I think for anyone who's playing draft fantasy, these next few days, there's going to be lots of trades, lots of loans, a few players come into the league, a few players leave one club to go to another club in the league, which might change how much they play. So it's a good idea to keep up to date with, where players are going, who those players are. Are they attacking players? Are they going to get your points? Are they going in for big money? Because if so, they're probably going to play. So yeah, definitely try to keep up to date with that. And hopefully you'll be able to pick up a good player in the waiver. So that's something that you should be looking out for. Dave, you've got something to discuss this week. We should probably do that before we look at the next game week. So are you ready to have a bit of a discussion? What's your topic this week?
My topic is in the form of a posed question. How short is too short? So just not long before we went to air tonight, I've seen that Scott Parker has been sacked as the manager at Bournemouth. Now, obviously on the back of a 9-0 loss to Liverpool, that doesn't help. But hey, Ralph Hasenhüttl did it twice and he's survived it. But for me, I just brought up a list of the shortest serving Premier League managers. Now, Jacques Santini at Tottenham in 2004 lasted 11 league matches. Sammy Lee at Bolton Wanderers, 11 matches. Bob Bradley at Swansea, 11 matches. Paul Sturrock at Southampton, 9. Les Reed at Charlton Athletic in 2006 lasted 7 games. And the record shortest Premier League matches stay is one that, Isaac, you'll be familiar with. Frank de Boer.
Frankie.
4 matches for Crystal Palace in 2017. Now, I think it's appalling that Scott Parker has gone so quickly. He brought them up from the Championship. They've not invested huge amounts of money. They're not Nottingham Forest, right? They haven't just thrown all the money at all the players. They beat Aston Villa in the first week, and then they went on to lose against City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. No one in their right mind would have been expecting Bournemouth to get a single point against City, Arsenal, or Liverpool. They've done what they had to do. They beat Villa. Okay, 9-0 doesn't look great. But, I mean, I'm the Watford supporter here having a dig about sacking managers too early. But I reckon 4 games after bringing a team up from the Championship and the fixtures that has entailed is atrocious. Discuss.
I agree with you. The only way I could see it making sense is if there was an outstanding candidate with international or ridiculous pedigree available that they'd already hit up, ready to go. Now, I think the thing that makes this even more ludicrous is there is 2 days of the transfer window open. Whoever they bring in has to use the same side that Parker has assembled.
Yep.
What I don't understand is who can the, top dogs of Bournemouth possibly expect to have done a better job with Scott Parker's team than Scott Parker right now? And I guess the answer to that is they've got someone in mind, or they just think it's not Scott Parker. But unless they have an alternative, I just don't see how that's the right decision.
And the only ones, like the only managers in world football that you can really anticipate wanting to go there now would be like some lower league manager, potentially
they aren't
from
of that quality.
That's right, and they're not.
Is Ange up to the task?
Honestly,
He's not going to do it.
I reckon that's below him right now.
Absolutely, it is. He's in the Champions League, for goodness sakes.
Absolutely, it's below him. Ange, he
wouldn't get the opportunity to do what he needs to do, and he would want to do.
That's right.
If you consider Celtic and Rangers on the same playing field, Gerrard went straight through a Villa, who was around the 10th mark at the time. I realise they're probably not there now, but they were a mid to starting to push to the next level. Ange has had equal success so far. Probably hasn't done it for a sustained period of time yet, but that is 100% beneath Ange right now. So I guess it's got to be the wrong decision. The only way they can do this, I think that would make sense, is if they needed 3 points from the last 2 games and they wanted that bounce. In that sense, maybe. But with 34 games to go, I don't know what they expect.
No.
Look, it's interesting to see what Scott Parker's put out in the media, after the Liverpool game, reading between the lines. Like, he basically said, we're not equipped for the Premier League. It seems as though he's had discussions, I would say, with the owners to say, look, you need to do something. We've got 2 days remaining in the transfer window. Who are we bringing in? Because we need some more reinforcements to try and stay in this league. He was probably a bit more forceful, maybe with a few more choice words than that, potentially. I don't know, reading between lines. But in the press release from Bournemouth, it did say that what they're wanting to do in terms of remaining sustainable in their approach sort of didn't line up with Scott Parker's viewpoint. And I would assume that is the reason why he's been let go. He made some pretty strong points in the media about needing more reinforcements. They've only spent 26 million, and I say only spent, they've only spent 27 million pounds, or euros, in fact, 26 million euros. They've got 7 players for that. 3 of which are free transfers, 2 of which basically were on loan to another club who have come back to them. They've only paid for 2 players, 15 million and 12 million approximately, for 2 players who haven't played in the Premier League before. So it's not as though they've spent their money trying to get tried and tested players from the Premier League, when certain players have been available for free that they could have got. So I'm not sure if I understand them wanting to be sustainable, but if they don't have ambitions to stay in the Premier League and that's what Scott Parker wants to do, I can understand him potentially not wanting to hang around as well, because they're not backing him. They're not giving him the funds he needs to actually try and stay there. So it just seems odd. Like, don't you get around about 200 million pounds for being in the Premier League, more or less, over the course of the time that you're there?
Plus the parachute payments.
Plus the parachute. So I don't understand them not spending that money. I understand being sustainable and not wanting to break your wage structure and all those things. Totally get that. But when you're not even bringing in tried and tested Premier League players, like they had Gary Cahill on the books, they let him go before the start of this season. I'm not saying he's up there as one of the quality centre backs anymore, but surely he's a person you could have just kept around the squad because he's been there, done that, knows the standard.
I was just having a look at the transfer spending for the this window of Premier League teams, and it's actually got an interesting incomings to outgoings. So Bournemouth, of a list of net expenditure, would be 13th overall with 24.21 million. I assume that is pounds spent. They, if you look at the table, are not in the relegation zone. There's actually 3 teams below them. one of the 3 teams below them has a net spend more than Bournemouth. So why are we not talking about Wolves manager? Is it Bruno Lage? Yeah.
Lush, yeah.
How is he not? He hasn't had the hard fixtures, because if Palace has played City, Liverpool, and Arsenal, and Bournemouth have played City, Liverpool, and Arsenal, I highly doubt Wolves have played City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. I mean, that just seems a bit unfortunate, but they're above Everton, they're above Leicester, they're above Wolves.
They played
Like Dave
Leeds,
said.
Fulham, Tottenham, Newcastle.
Surely Wolves, who have a net spend, they've spent 106 million and they've made 35 for a net spend of negative 71. Surely he should be in the firing line, right?
I still think it's too early. Going to my
100%,
original point,
100%.
it's too early.
Yeah.
100%. Well, I just found that really interesting that that's not being spoken about. Surely, and now maybe this is where the character of Scott Parker comes into it. Him as a player, I can only assume it somehow goes into how he is as a manager and a person, and maybe there's more to it than we think. Obviously, we know the comments he's made in the media. Maybe he's gone further than that behind the closed doors with management, and they've just disagreed completely and not happy with how he's doing things. So they've just, maybe it's more of a personnel thing, less of a performance-related thing. Because I agree with you, I don't think he should have been sacked.
Yeah, 100% no.
But on that note, like even Joey Barton had a managerial career. Like, not Premier League level, but if you're talking about dodgy characters in the dressing room who are likely to fire up, even Joey Barton had a managerial career.
Can I just point out, I was looking at this off topic, this list, who has the best net spend? They've actually made 68 million this transfer window. Any ideas?
Ooh.
Or how many clubs have a
Liverpool.
Positive? How many clubs have a positive? Liverpool's are 4.5 million spent. So they're just under.
I was thinking they've shipped off Mane, but they obviously brought in a lot as well.
So they've spent 77.2. They actually they've received 72.6. So there's 3 teams with a positive. Leicester City have made no signings, but have made less than $1 million. So they're 900K, I guess, to the good. Leeds United have made 2 million. Brighton have made the most at 68. Obviously, Cucurella selling for 70 helps. And Man City have actually spent 109 and made 143 million. That's pretty impressive.
Not bad. I mean, Arsenal helped them out a lot there.
True. Arsenal have spent almost 100 million in total, so I guess that pretty much all goes to City.
And Chelsea, obviously, Sterling wouldn't have been cheap either.
No. Yeah. No, I agree that it's far. Like, when you think about the fact that he's had a preseason, he's got his players playing the way that he feels they need to play with the people he's got. There's no backup plan here. There's nothing to suggest that they actually have done this for any other reason than we've got a manager who doesn't fit with what we want him to do anymore and is now complaining about the team, complaining about us. So see you later. And I think it's pretty disrespectful to not give him more time and opportunity to try and, see their views align as well. So seems a little bit silly, unfortunately.
On a side note, on a tangent, not talking EPL, but obviously, we're Aussies and we're all big Ange fans, and Celtic won 9-0 against Dundee, and apparently their manager has gone now as well. And it's still only early days in the SPL.
There you go. Well, I'm just looking up some free agents who are still available, who they could have maybe got their hands on. Let's have a look at a few. Ross Barkley's now become a free agent. Chelsea's slashed his contract, although he was apparently on 200. What was it? Something ridiculous per week. £200,000 per week, probably, or something like that. I mean, Bournemouth aren't going to pay that in their wage structure, but he might still want to pay in the Premier League.
Weird side note: the midfield of Liverpool has been their sticking point so far. Barkley, as an Everton boy, would Liverpool entertain it? Is he good enough? Probably not.
Well,
Is he?
one of
Better
my
on a short-term
issues-
cheat contact.
one of the issues with my team is what to do with Tielemans, and I've said I've got to wait for the end of the transfer window, but there are rumours that they're in for him now as well. And I did see that they just spent a lot of money securing Jude Bellingham, but I don't think that's till next season.
Oh, have they? Liverpool have?
I don't think it's officially confirmed, but it's
Okay.
pretty close to announcing. Yep.
Interesting. Because I think Klopp came out this week and said originally he came out and said, no, we don't need. And he actually came out and said, I was wrong. The media was right.
Yep.
We do need. So it'll be interesting to see who they do go in for. And on a side note, they've just announced Manchester United. Anthony has signed. So interesting to see what happens. Rashford, Martial, Ronaldo, and Sancho owners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gilby.
That'll be a big one. Oh, Gilby will be licking his lips trying to figure out which midfielder to trade for him. So there we go.
Trying to work out how he can still justify playing Ronaldo.
Absolutely. Well, here's a few other players that Bournemouth could just give a 1-year contract to. No long-term commitment. Here's some free agents, Premier League experience, or good experience. Ross Barkley. I believe this player might be linked to West Ham. Adnan Januzaj, I feel like I butchered that name.
Ex-Man U player.
Ex-Man U player. Serge Aurier is a free agent, ready to go. Willian, ready to go. Diego Costa, ready to go. Marcello, ready to go. And then we could even look at Jean Mata. He's there. He's ready to go. And with a bit of an Australian flavour, Tommy Rogic, ready to go. What? Give these boys a 1-year contract. Come on, let's go. Come on, Bournemouth, do it.
Don't think anyone knows what's going on with Tommy Rogic at the moment.
Well, most recent I heard was Everton would potentially in for him. Be good to see him in the league. I think that could work relatively well. But with Serge Aurier, I believe Forest are going to sign him because they need another player.
Do they?
It's legitimately being linked.
Well, look, Bournemouth, you could put a pretty good team of, pretty much an over 30s team just about with those names there. But hey, why not? 1-year contract, no long-term commitment. Who doesn't want to do that? That'd be great. Good for them.
When you're inevitably going to be fighting for relegation and to keep your place in the league, you want some of those experienced heads that know what the league's about, or at least, top flight football, whether it's Premier League or, Spain or Italy or Germany, wherever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get them cheap, good shout. Why not?
Why not? Do it. Keep your... give your coach or manager something to cling on to instead of just deciding, you're done. See you later. Off you go.
And we're speculating that he got sacked here, right? But we've already said that he's been making comments in the media about, I need help, and maybe they just said no, and maybe it was his decision to walk away. We don't know this yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it will be very, very interesting to see what the wash-up is and who they bring in. I haven't looked at the betting markets. Maybe that could be in your multi-mig. I don't know. But it'd be interesting to see who they bring in as the replacement, long-term replacement. So, boys, that does lead us into the upcoming games. I think it's about time we have a look at those, start making some predictions about which of those games could be the best in terms of fantasy points, but also we need to hear from Mixed Multi, of course. So let's have a bit of a look now at the upcoming games. I'll pop them up on the screen. We start off with Crystal Palace versus Brentford, Fulham versus Brighton, Southampton versus Chelsea, Leeds versus Everton in the first sort of games of the midweek. And then we've got Arsenal, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Wolves, Man City, Forest, West Ham, Spurs, Liverpool, Newcastle, and Leicester versus Man United. So, Dave, what sort of stands out for you this coming midweek game week?
Straight off the bat, your boys, Palace versus Brentford, both teams playing incredibly well, both with a bit of attacking flair and exciting to watch.
Yep.
And there's quite a few little, it obviously makes sense that majority of the fantasy points and the big fantasy assets come from the top 4 or 5 teams. But for 2 mid-table-ish teams, there's quite a few really good fantasy assets in there as well that lots of people have their eye on.
Yep, absolutely. 2 that catch my eye. Number 1, Liverpool, Newcastle. Newcastle rose to the occasion for Man City. I'm keen to see if they can rise to the occasion with Liverpool. Liverpool have come off a massive win. Can they do it again? Who are they going to play midweek? A few questions there around Liverpool. I'm keen to see if Newcastle can sort of jag some points there. I think that'll be really interesting to see. The other one, and I mean, it totally makes sense. I'm keen to see Bournemouth Wolves. Can they get the new manager bounce? so early on in the season.
I think they need a new manager for that.
Yeah, it won't even be a new manager. It'll be someone interim, caretaker, rubbish.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they did announce who the caretaker was. Obviously, someone who's already associated with the club. Mick, I don't know if you've had a look at who the favourites are.
Heavy favourite, Sean Dyche, $2.60.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And then I think the interim guy is Kjetil Knudsen, some Swedish dude. He's about $6. Next, Chris Wilder, 11. So it seems currently the market's pretty heavy in Dyche's favour.
There you go. They've just been waiting in the wings. What Bournemouth would have to do to stay up is very much what Sean Dyche would be able to give them in terms of the playing style. So, hey, have to wait and see if that's where they go.
Big Sam, Woy.
Woy, bring Woy out of retirement again? Why not? I can't see any of those two. But
Claudio Ranieri.
It's been done before. There you go. Very nice. Well, Mick, where are you taking us with your multi? Is there a game that sort of jumps out at you before we even get there?
There's a few games. There's a few games I see this week that look like they could be very lopsided. That's coming off a pretty big game week. So you could argue Leicester Man U. Leicester have been pretty bad. Man U could do something to them here. Man City Forest, obviously. Arsenal Villa. That's probably the one I'm the most interested in because Arsenal have looked very good. Villa have looked very bad. So that'll be an interesting one there. In terms of the multi, that's the main game that I've actually stuck with. So I've got, summing it up as simply as possible, because it's never simple, is Arsenal to win, Jesus to score anytime, and Arsenal to win by scoring 3 goals or more to 0.
Sorry, you need to say all that again.
So Arsenal to win, scoring 3 goals or more and not conceding a goal. So 3-0 or more, and Jesus to score anytime. Okay. And then I've also got, just for, that's paying $8.50 alone. So it's actually not as big a bet as it probably should be. And then the other game I've got there is Leeds Everton. So I've got Leeds beating Everton, which is a favourite, not necessarily heavy favourite, but favourite. But I've also got Sinistero to score his first Premier League goal. Okay. I don't know if midweek you saw it, but he scored his first goal for Leeds. I reckon they might give Bamford another couple of days until the weekend. Sinistero might get his first Premier League start, and I reckon he might get his first goal. So got $1 on that one, 46.7. Oh, so again, when it comes off, it's going to help pay off a couple of the losses from last year.
Very nice. Well, look, to Everton's credit, defensively they've been a lot better this year. So, it'll be interesting. That'll be a very interesting game, to be fair. Leeds sort of attacking, all-out attack will be good to see. So, Mick, thank you for that. We'll come back to you next week to see if that's paid out for you. Let's hope so. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But, boys, as always, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast / live stream. Gentlemen, have a fantastic mid-week, game week, and obviously the game week on the weekend as well.
Yep, I've got to go and finalise my team before cut-off.
Very good.
All right, catch us later.
Cheers, boys.
Thank you. Cheers.